Latin America's biggest economy, Brazil, has cut billions in spending to help control inflation and close out the year 2013 with a surplus. We spoke to CCTV correspondent in Rio de Janeiro, Lucrecia Franco, about the decision.
Phil, this is Brazil's second budget cut in 2 months, brought on by another forward revision, the government's forecast for economic growth this year of 2013. To stay on track for a budget surplus, Brazil says it will cut its budget by 10 billion reais, which at the current exchange rate is around $4.5 billion US. The government has done this partly to fight inflation, which in June hit 6.7%. That was higher than it has been in the last 20 months. While Brazil's inflation rate fell in July, President Dilma Rousseff is trying to persuade the bond markets that she intends to stick to the fiscal discipline that helped stabilize Latin America's largest economy. Brazil's finance minister Guido Mantega canceled his participation in the G20 meeting in Moscow to deal with the country's budget woes. On Monday, Brazil's central bank lowered its growth forecast again, the 10th time it has done this in the last 10 weeks. Finance Minister Mantega said Brazil can't change GDP like you change clothes. Brazil said it won't cut social services, which would be an extremely unpopular move. Brazilians have been demonstrating since June over the country's poor standard of public services, education, health and transport.
That was Lucrecia Franco reporting from Rio de Janeiro. Lackluster growth and inflation may have Brazil's financial leaders in a very tough spot, and that is how to bring the region's economy back to the days not so long ago of robust expansion. Paula Cabral reports.
Growing consumption through the expansion of credit was key for Brazil's economic prosperity for almost a decade, but it wasn't enough to sustain growth over the last couple of years. After an impressive 7.5 GDP expansion in 2010, growth plummeted to much lower levels in 2011 and 2012. And this year, it doesn't look much better. To fight rising inflation, Brazil's central bank has started a cycle of interest rates hikes, which are likely to have negative impact on growth.
I believe that the Brazilian economy, for the time being and for the next year, I believe, it's pretty much done. They will increase this year lower than 3% of GDP, and next year pretty much the same figure.
Growing numbers of people who bought on credit are now having difficulties as the economy slows down. Celso Lima borrowed money to buy a car 2 years ago.
At first I managed to make all my repayments, but then with the growing cost of living, I started to only have money to pay the high interest charged by the bank, and the debt never reduced.
Most economists say Brazil needs to boost investment in its productive sectors as the consumption-based growth strategy seems to be reaching its limits. Paulo Cabral, CCTV, São Paulo.